There are a lot of legal questions to sort out on this story.
Joining us now is legal expert Lou Shapiro. Mr. Shapiro, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate your time. So this verdict, was it an expected outcome in your opinion?
I don't think many people expected a verdict to be on this large of a scale. Yes, there was negligence. Yes, there was going to be a finding of negligence by the LA County Sheriff's Department. But this amount of verdict, this monetary amount, I think this hit a lot of people by surprise because this trial was not aired. So we had to judge what was happening by what was being reported in the news and so forth. So yes, I think the amount itself did catch everybody by surprise.
Also, the amount of time the jury spent making a decision, it was very quick. A lot of folks found that surprising. What do you think that showed?
That showed that the plaintiff's side made a very compelling case to the jury. The fact that they only took a couple hours to come out with such a substantial verdict in light of the case, that really does send a message. That's the jury saying that we were offended by the conduct of the LA County Sheriff's Department, and we're going to send a message to the public that this type of misconduct, this type of negligence and insensitivity to a family going through such a tragedy, that will never happen again.
Well, this type of trial with such a high-profile client, what kind of challenges does that pose for Vanessa Bryant's attorneys?
So they had to overcome the important issue of they had a client who everybody knows is already doing well financially. So that's going to be in the back of the jurors' minds, and that is an obstacle that the plaintiff's side did a very good job of instructing the jury. It doesn't matter how much somebody has sitting in that chair. What matters is what amount will send a message to make sure that this type of conduct is not repeated to anybody else. You're not just sending a message on behalf of the Bryant family and the other victims involved. You're sending a message to make sure that this doesn't happen to anybody else, including you who are sitting in the courtroom today.
That's an interesting point, because I was going to ask you, what do you think the role that celebrity played in all of this? This certainly would not be a case that we are covering so publicly if it was just somebody who was involved with an accident that nobody knew. But this is Kobe Bryant we're talking about. How much did that change the dynamic of this case?
So there's always the concern of the backfiring effect. The concern that, well, we're dealing with a high-profile family, high-profile individual, that if this happened to me, would I get the same treatment? Would I get the same attention? And that's a gamble. You, as a trial lawyer, you're throwing to a jury, and you really don't know. And any trial lawyer will say this: you never know what a jury is going to do. But in this case, it seemed like the plaintiff's side, using the evidence, the witnesses, the disturbing testimony that came across, the emotional testimony, that's what I think really made the difference and resulted in this verdict that we saw today.
Does this open up the door for perhaps other potential victims of this crash to come forward?
It opens up the door down the line if somebody experiences something similar to this. But the truth is, you know, the chances of a tragedy of this magnitude happening, somebody high profile, the damages being this much, you have to have all these ingredients in order to have an outcome like this. And this case just had that. Most don't.
Legal expert Lou Shapiro, you've added so much insight to us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You bet.